Welcome to the Stronger Than Steel podcast with your host, Austin Davidson and John Keir, talking Steelers all the time. Now, here's Austin and John.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Stronger Than Steel podcast. My name is John Keir, and joining me as always is my co-host, Austin Davidson.
Hello.
It is October 6th. It is early on a Tuesday morning. Austin, we are recording just after the conclusion of Week 4 of the NFL season. We were unable to get a podcast ready to recap the Texans game in time because there's been a lot going on, scheduling conflicts, and I mean the big news to talk about first and foremost is that the Steelers improved to 3-0 with a big win over the Texans in comeback fashion, 28-21. So that was great to see, but then the Steelers game against the Titans the following week was put in jeopardy due to positive coronavirus tests from the Tennessee Titans staff members and then players. And as time went on, the game was originally postponed off a Sunday and was expected to be played on Monday night. But Titans players kept testing positive for the virus, and now the game was postponed to a date later in the season, which now will be Week 7, which was the Steelers' original bye week. This week became their bye week, and their Week 8 was their bye. Now they're playing the Titans Week 7, and they were going to play the Ravens Week 7. Now they're playing the Ravens Week 8. So there's a bit of shuffling around right there. So quite a lot going on and pretty unprecedented stuff right now.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, you go from a really nice bye week to a really bad one, but I mean, Mike Tomlin said it best. We don't care. You have to move on. You could be pissed in the moment, and now it's just time to move on, get ready for Philadelphia next week.
I really think that a lot's been made about the Steelers' bye week being changed, and I know that it's probably frustrating to have things change like this, especially when it has nothing to do with something that you did. But I really think that it's nothing more than an annoyance. I think there are people that are trying to make a bigger deal out of this than it is. Not to say that they shouldn't be annoyed, but I don't think this makes or breaks the Steelers season either way.
And no, there's plenty of statistics to show plenty of teams with Week 4 bye weeks or before have gone on to win Super Bowls and stuff and definitely make the playoffs. So I'm not too worried. It is inconvenient when you know, like, your team was one of the least banged up teams going into this week, and then it just gets canceled. Oh, but one thing I want to point out, anyone that wanted the Titans to forfeit this game is stupid. There was no chance I ever wanted that to happen. There was no way I wanted a straight forfeit for the Titans. Like, at the beginning, I wanted them to play with their players, but that would have been stupid after, like, 3 days later, they're still getting more and more on their COVID list. But I never wanted them to forfeit. I prefer this rather than getting a win on the Titans from them forfeiting. That it just feels shady. A lot of people beg for that, too. I don't like it.
Yeah, it's because a lot of people just felt like the Steelers shouldn't have to be dealt this hand. But the fact of the matter is it's playing football in the middle of a pandemic. So you have to make certain concessions. And there are players that were talking about it like, this is something they knew was possible when they signed up this year. It's just the reality of the situation. So now the Steelers are playing 4 straight home games, and then they'll be playing 3 difficult road games later on. So I guess the pros and cons of that are the pros. The Steelers have, I think, a very legitimate chance to open the season 5-0 because they play the Eagles and Browns next 2 games.
Yeah, man, there's definitely the possibility. The Eagles are decimated and weak where these Steelers are strong, so that should be a good win. The Cleveland Browns are playing okay right now, so I don't know if that's a guaranteed win. I wouldn't say that, but I mean, no game in the NFL is a guaranteed win, but I could see the Steelers still winning that one.
And then the Steelers have 3 difficult road games against Tennessee, Baltimore, and then Dallas. Dallas not playing too well right now, but they have offensive firepower. I can understand the concerns of playing 3 difficult road games back to back to back like that, but I think when you go into a game when you're 5-0, I think worst case scenario, even if the Steelers only win one of those 3 games and they manage to start 5-0, they're 6-2. They're going to make the playoffs.
And there's even if you lose the 2 games that aren't against Baltimore, you're still sitting pretty. If you beat Baltimore, you're doing great. You still have the tiebreaker because assuming Baltimore wins all their games, they would be 6-2 as well.
Yeah, so the fact of the matter is, yes, it has affected the Steelers negatively somewhat, but there are positives to take away from it too. And when you're 5-0 going into a game, even though you might lose that game, I think that the attitude that starts to develop with a team that's on a run like that makes them harder to be beaten.
Sure. I mean, once you get rolling, you're rolling usually.
I think that's what a good example of that is what we saw with the Green Bay Packers last year. They weren't exactly impressive with a lot of wins that they had last year, but they started really well. They only lost 3 games during the regular season, even though they weren't winning in blowout fashion. They just kept winning.
Yeah. Once you get ahead of steam, it's just hard to get stopped.
So where would you like to go to now, Austin? You want to go to the game?
Yeah, we can talk about the game.
Alrighty. Where would you like to start with this one? Because it was kind of a tale of 2 different halves.
Like offense, defense, or special teams, or
Sure, yeah.
let us start with defense. I like defense.
Alright, so the defense, obviously not a very good start to the game. Definitely a tale of 2 halves for them. You know, they open the game and they get a quick 3-and-out to start, but then they allow a touchdown drive, a 3-and-out, a touchdown drive. They alternated punts and touchdowns in the first half, but 3 long separate drives from the Houston Texans offense, and I thought at times you were seeing plays that were being made by an offense and a quarterback that's just really talented, and that happens sometimes. But there were times where the Steelers' defense, I thought, was not doing a good job in containing Deshaun Watson. And number 2, they were having too many breakdowns in coverage.
It was a tough day for the defense, and definitely in the first half. They were a little bit on the struggle bus. Mike Hilton kind of fixed up his game at the end, but he was really struggling in the beginning. Felt like overall coverage was failing in this game. I just felt like it felt like coverage wasn't able to hold up. But to be fair, the pass rush wasn't hitting home on Watson as good as it should have been. Not in the beginning. It felt like Watson had all the time in the pocket to throw, and like that seemed like something the Steelers should have excelled at in this game, at least in the beginning.
We talked about it, Austin. There were 2 big reasons why the Steelers have not been able to blow out teams very often over the course of the last year and a half when these 2 streaks started. But there was a 25-game turnover streak, which we'll touch on more later, and a 20-game streak, which is still going, of not scoring a touchdown on the opening drive. The Steelers only scored 3 points on the opening drive, and I think that the concern was when you've got a quarterback like Deshaun Watson on the other side, you need to take advantage of your good scoring opportunities when you have the chance.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be having a firefight with Deshaun Watson. He might not have Andre Hopkins anymore, but he still has Will Fuller, Randall Cobb, guys like that, Brandon Cooks as well. It's so, I mean, and Watson's really mobile. Like he hasn't really been doing it much anymore. He only ran one time for 5 yards, but like he used to be pretty mobile in his rookie year and stuff. He'd get out and run away, and that'd be a concern. Could be part of the reason why the coverage kind of struggled in this game. Could have been focusing on not letting him run away.
Well, see, the difference, I think, was they weren't letting him run the ball forward, but what he was doing is, you remember that Browns game, the Myles Garrett incident. In that game, Baker Mayfield broke the pocket a bunch of times and threw the ball down the field once he had escaped the pocket. I feel like we saw that a lot from Watson in this game. And, you know, one thing that was good throughout the day was the run defense. The Texans as a team finished with less than 2 yards per carry on the ground, 29 yards in total, and not a lot of successful runs on top of it. They couldn't get anything going, but early on anyways, it didn't matter as much. Deshaun Watson was just carving them up. And I think the big difference was that we saw a ton of different explosive plays. On their first touchdown drive alone, they had one explosive play on a 20-yard, two explosive plays on a 20-yard pass and then a 28-yard touchdown, and also a 17-yard pass. So 3 plays right there, accounting for almost about 60 yards of offense right there.
Yeah, Watson was dealing in the first half. It felt like whenever he got outside of that pocket, he was finding someone downfield to throw the ball to, which was unfortunate and disheartening at first, but also the Steelers defense was able to pull it together for the second half. But like you said, the run defense was the one consistent thing all day. They played at an elite high level. David Johnson isn't what he used to be, and the Texans offensive line is kind of trash, but they were doing enough in the pass blocking department to keep Watson up, at least in the beginning, because they finished with 5 sacks. But still, though, the defense played really well against the run. I really like how they play against the run this year. It feels like they always know when it's coming, and they got a good read on it. Like, they'll send a blitz against the run, and they were still doing that in this game, which was nice to see. They have a 50% blitz rate at the moment still.
Yeah, so their blitz rate in this game came way down, and they're still blitzing a lot.
Yeah, which is wild.
I think the most discouraging part of the defense from this game, though, was that last drive of the first half. So, game situation, the Texans were up 14-10. We're approaching the 2-minute warning. The Steelers are always great at those 2-minute drives at the end of the half to get some points. Ben Roethlisberger engineers a 63-yard drive in just 1 minute and 24 seconds. Steelers take a touchdown and take a 3-point lead, and then right there you're feeling pretty good, but right here is where you can't have what is allowed to happen with 1 minute and 14 seconds left. Deshaun Watson has a 5-play, 75-yard touchdown drive. Again, there was another explosive play on this drive, and then another play which went for 18 yards, so almost another explosive play, and then a 15-yard pass, and then a 14-yard pass. Watson was playing really well then, but I don't know. It seemed like the Steelers' defense didn't have any answers, and I guess getting into halftime, you're looking at that and saying that something like that can't happen. So, what happened was the Steelers made a few adjustments, but I didn't think there was a ton different that was noticeable other than the rushing lanes were more responsible, and it was less about trying to bring Watson down as it was just trying to keep him hemmed in the pocket, which did work.
Yeah, I noticed that adjustment too. Obviously, that last half touchdown really was disheartening because the Steelers had pulled it in within 3, and then they took back off, and the Texans got it. The Steelers took a 3-point lead, and then they lost it immediately and went down 4 points to end the half, which was really sucked.
That can't happen.
50 seconds left on the clock. Yeah, that can't happen. I know they had 3 timeouts, but really 3 timeouts you shouldn't be able to drive downfield in 50 seconds on the defense that we're supposed to have. So that was disheartening. The Steelers, like you said, kind of changed their game plan a little bit, enough to stop Watson. Cause literally more than half of Watson's yards came in the first half. He didn't really put up the passing numbers that he did in the
I think he was like 4 of 9 for wasn't he like 4 of 9 for like 50 something yards in the second half?
Yeah, no, he wasn't really able to do much. And like you look at like some of the drives they had after that: 6 yards, 3 plays, 9 yards, 3 plays, -7 yards, 8 plays, 42, 3 plays, 0 yards. Like their longest drive in the second half was 42 yards, and it ended in an interception by Mike Hilton.
That was their most successful drive. Their 3 drives besides that, they lost a total of 1 yard. They had 1 drive with positive yards, and it ended, that net them positive yardage, and it ended with the worst type of play.
Yeah, exactly. So, the Steelers defense was able to buck up in the second half. I feel like the Steelers are a second half team. I feel like typically happens is the defense doesn't play as a high level in the first half, and then in the second half they're able to lock it down. Like, I feel like this happened in a few games in the past 18 games or so.
A bit of a reverse though from the previous week against the Broncos.
Yeah, that was a little bit more suffocating.
But the trend has been relatively self-sustaining over the course of time. So, we're 3 weeks through this defense now. They led the league in sacks from that point at the end of week 3. They had the turnovers, that big interception by Mike Hilton, as you pointed out. They're still getting the splash plays. They're still getting after the quarterback. They've done a good job in all but a couple runs from Melvin Gordon of stopping the run. But they're also giving up more points than you probably want. Where would you grade this defense right now?
Like in terms like top 10, top 5?
I was just saying a letter grade overall.
I'd give them B plus, pushing an A minus. I think for expectation wise, I feel like they're doing really well on the pass rush side. Like the whole team like has 4 players in like the top 10 for pressures, just pressures. And then I mean T.J. Watt was Defensive Player of the Month for September. So you have that. I feel like Mike Hilton as a whole is playing really well.
I think he's having his best season so far, which I know he had a really good year, his breakout year, but he's playing really well right now.
Yeah, this is a contract year for him, so he's playing really well. Minka Fitzpatrick, some people are a little disappointed. I am not. He has not only been targeted, I think, 2 times, 3 times. So
not
he
much.
hasn't been able to make plays because he's shutting down an entire side of the field. So I'm happy with him. So you know what? I don't know why I said B plus. I'll go with A minus straight up because I feel happy with the defense other than the start of that Texans game.
Yeah, I'll also go with an A minus. I know that they're probably giving up on average, maybe 4 or 5 points more per game than you'd want them to. But you look at the NFL this year; it's the highest scoring NFL season that we've ever seen to this point, and it's just not that kind of league anymore. It is about getting those splash plays. These turnovers mean more now than they ever have before. I just think that when you talk about great teams and great units, they aren't always great, but they are when they have to be. And I think so far that we've seen that they have been. And their high blitz rate is something that I don't think can be ignored because you're giving up some help on the back end. And they helped them out a bit in the second half. I don't think they were blitzing quite as much. They weren't blitzing, again, as much in this game in general. I feel like they were a little more selective with when they were turning up the heat, though. And I think that made a difference, is that it gave the defensive backs on the back end a little more help. And that's something that they haven't had most of the early portion of this season. So, I mean, I'd also give them an A minus because you'd like to see them improve in some areas, but they're still doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at the rushing defense, right? The Steelers are currently tied for the best rushing defense in the league. Like, they are giving up 2.7 yards per carry.
It's the
with
fewest.
The Buccaneers.
It's the fewest rushing yards allowed in team history through 3 games.
Yeah, and they're one of a few teams to not give up a 20-yard run. There's only 5 teams that haven't given up a 20-yard run, when the Bills, Colts, Steelers, Seahawks, and Buccaneers. So it's like, in the run department, they are doing amazing. Like, it's literally the only struggles they've had, which aren't really struggles, is in the passing department. Like, they've been definitely more than serviceable in the passing department. I feel happy with how the defense has been playing.
And let's talk about the touchdowns that they've given up, too. And going back to New York, they gave up a broken play touchdown, which it sucks, but it happens sometimes. And they gave up another touchdown drive, a garbage time one at the end. So, I mean, I wouldn't call those cheap, but I also wouldn't say that they were ones that were overly concerning. The second week against the Broncos, what do they have? 2 touchdowns? I know they had 21 points, but I know they converted a 2-point conversion in there. Only 2 touchdowns against isn't too bad. And here, I think you're okay giving up an extra touchdown to a quarterback as great as Deshaun Watson. I was not expecting the Steelers to hold Watson in that offense under 17 points.
Yeah, that's really good. And just to throw some more stats out at you, they've allowed the 3rd lowest completion percentage at 59.8. They've allowed the 6th lowest quarterback rate of any team. Oh, I'm sorry. I actually miscounted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 7th lowest. Like, they're doing pretty good in almost all facets. And then you look at the sack numbers. The sack numbers are ridiculous. They're at 15 sacks at the moment, which obviously they had a bye. And they're still in second. They're only behind the Eagles at 17. So, it's like they're pretty effective.
Yeah, over a 16-game season, they're averaging 80 sacks. They're on pace for 80 sacks. So
That would be sick. I wonder. I always forget this. I wonder what the sack record is for
I
a
think
team.
it's
I feel like
62, I think.
I was going to say 65. I think the Panthers have it though.
Yeah, the
from what I
Panthers do
remember.
have it. I think they got it sometime in the past couple decades. National Football League records, because I'm kind of curious about this. Oh boy.
I didn't get team sacks. It brought me not Michael Strahan. Michael Strahan. I am just stupid.
Yeah, the single season sack record. I know what you're talking about. Here we go. Team records. Team records. We want defense sacks. Most sacks in a game, 12. Most seasons leading the league in sacks. The Steelers have 6, and 3 of them have come in the last 3 years.
Wow. Apparently Chicago has the most sacks in the season at 72.
That was right after they started. I'd like to see what. Oh man, you see under that the Chiefs had 10. 10. There are some teams that had 12 in a game. My goodness. So 72. So they're probably not going to get there. I think a 60 sack season is not out of the question though.
I think a 60 sack season is definitely achievable, especially with the offensive lines. The Steelers haven't even gotten to touch the Browns' offensive line yet, and they get to do that twice. Yeah, and again, you have to face Lamar Jackson, who is tough to sack because he's just so mobile. So, I mean, I guess it balances out. You do that twice. But then you get Cincinnati twice, who also is really bad.
Yeah, I mean, right now, the way things are shaping up right now, you get the Eagles, which is prime. The Browns have a decent offensive line. They have better pieces than they did last year, but the 2 tackles they added are more run blockers than they are pass blockers, so that'll be interesting. They also don't throw the ball a ton, which is also interesting. The Titans, which I think you could have. The Ravens, which is kind of interesting. They did sack Jackson 3 times last year in the game in Pittsburgh. The Cowboys' offensive line is not good. The Bengals' offensive line is not good. I don't think the Jaguars' offensive line is that good. The Washington football teams isn't that good. Buffalo's is. Indianapolis is. So there's...
Looking at the numbers, the Eagles have given up the 3rd most. The Washington football team are right behind them at the 6th most with 13. Jaguars are tied with the Washington football team for 13. Not very good.
No. There are some good offensive lines with Indianapolis, though. So there's a good mix.
Yeah. Yeah, it's mixing. Colts only have given up 4 sacks on the year.
But overall, I understand people saying they want this team to give up less points. It's a long season. I think you just keep up with it right now. The big thing that I was frustrated with in this game, besides the points, was the explosive plays. Because you look at these guys, just looking at the long receptions that these guys had, Randall Cobb had at least one, Kenny Stills had one, Jordan Atkins had one, David Johnson had one, Brandon Cooks had one, Will Fuller had a 17-yard grab. Steven Nelson's not having the best year right now, is he?
No, he's a little bit struggling. I don't even know if I'd call it struggling. He's just not playing as good as he was last year. He's like playing okay.
Which I think you could argue that was pretty unsustainable, just because he had never been that good before.
Yeah, that was a wild first season for him. So, I mean, and Mike Hilton's kind of stepping it up.
Yeah, he's
kind of evens out.
When he's doing what he's asked to do, he's the best.
Yeah, 100%.
I've never seen a player like that before. A nickel cornerback that plays like a linebacker in that type of role.
Yeah, I mean, there's not many people like him. He's kind of like, he's kind of one of a kind for a cornerback, because he's kind of, I'm not going to say he's as good as, but he's sort of like Jamal Adams. He plays the same role for a different position. Obviously Jamal Adams is better at what he does, but Mike Hilton's like the mini version. Like, he's able to play at the line, he's able to get the tackles for a loss, he's able to get the sacks when he comes in blitzing. You know.
I wonder if there's going to be this new breed of slot cornerbacks that does stuff like that. Probably not, but maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like college isn't good at producing that. Like, I feel like that's not going to be college football would have to kind of change how they play their corners if they're going to do that. That's to occur in the NFL, I think.
Yeah, I don't know how some of the it would have to be like a converted safety most likely. Which was Hilton a converted safety? I know he's played some snaps. I think that interception he was actually technically playing safety on that.
He was technically safety on that play. Yeah, I don't know if he was at Ole Miss if he did, but he's played safety snaps for the Steelers.
Yeah, not 100% sure. That's something we'll have to go back and look at. Ready to go over to the offense?
Yeah, we can talk about the offense.
All right. So 28 points in total. We got 3 total touchdowns from the offense in this one. Let's start with the quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger. I felt like it was another up and down game for him, but definitely better than the Broncos game, I felt.
Yeah. I think that he had to work into this one a little bit, but I feel like that's going to be most games this year. It's going to start slow, and then I just got to work into it. In the end, I mean, his stat line kind of outplayed Sean Watson, so I thought that he did well enough. So I was happy with this play, but I think the biggest takeaway, right, that we got to talk about the offense is I guess this goes for the whole team because special teams didn't mess up either. No turnovers.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That was the biggest thing. That was probably the difference maker. If you have a turnover in this, the Texans could easily tie the game at any point. So that was the biggest thing.
The last time being that Panthers game on that Thursday night back in 2018, that's how long it's been since the Steelers have played a game where they didn't turn the football over. And, a very clean game. And, everyone involved should be given a pat on the back. They did a good job. But the other aspect, that 20 games without an opening drive touchdown, that continued in this one. And one of the few complaints I had in this game was they decided to run on a 3rd and 1, which isn't something I'm mad about, but they ran out of the shotgun with Jalen Samuels on that opening drive of 3rd and 1. And you already know how I feel about him. He only got half the yardage needed, and the Steelers decided to settle for 3.
Yeah, that was tough. I don't know why you don't put your best running back in, or at least like Benny Snell. You don't have to put your best running back in James Conner, but you gotta get a heftier guy in there at the least. Jalen Samuels is not the guy I would have put in there. Like, I think Fiechner was like outplaying himself. He's like, well, they'll never expect us to run with Jalen Samuels in there. I mean, like, the set was like ready for a run. It looked like it was a running play. So, I mean, like, he was overthinking it, I think. That's like the only explanation as to why you wouldn't put your, best running back in there. See, to me, like, even if what I just explained was what happened, it's like putting James Conner in there at least makes them kind of like respect, like, if you want to pass instead, like, you could do it. Because they're going to be expecting you to run now. Like, 100% going to expect you to run. I don't know, man. So,
there's a lot of different ways you could have gone. I just didn't like the way they went with it.
Yeah.
Because Samuels is not a hit-the-hole type of running back. And that's a situation where you need to get those 2 yards. And if you're not going to do that, his best asset is probably catching the ball. Try a screen with him, although I don't even think he does that well. I think that's overplayed. But I wasn't crazy about it, but it was one of the few complaints I really had with the offense all day.
Yeah, that was just a tough one. I mean, Baker makes mistakes, and that was one of them. At least it wasn't costly. Steelers were still able to get on the board, but yeah, not something you would like to see going forward.
I think that, all things considered, he's had a really solid start to the year, Fiechner.
Yeah, no, his play calling hasn't been bad. A lot of like the offensive mishaps have kind of been like Ben being a little bit slower or stuff like that. Like, and it still comes into fruition. The opening game plan is still what sucks though. The opening game plan, like we just talked about, is never good. It's never good enough, I should say. This week was okay because they were able to get 3 points, but it's never good enough on the scripted plays.
Yeah, it's like once you get through those first 2 to 3 drives, then you can start moving.
That's what it feels like. It really feels like, yeah, the offense starts slow for like 2 or 3 drives, and then they start kicking. And then they're like, okay, well, now we're going off script, and now I guess it's predictable. That's my only guess. Like, I guess teams kind of know what the Steelers want to do when they're scripting.
So one area of Ben Roethlisberger's game that could improve is the deep ball. 0 for 5 in this game. And you look at his stat line, it might not look overly impressive, but if he completes one of those deep passes, gets one explosive play, you're talking about more than just a solid day. You're talking about a really good day.
Yeah, he still threw for 10 yards
Per
per
completion, yeah.
Over that, obviously, but so I was happy with it. There is still room for improvement. He is not at 2015 Ben. I don't know if we'll ever get there because that's a tough ass. That's a really good Ben
I really think,
but
real quick, if you don't mind, what year is peak Ben in your mind?
I think it is 2015.
I think 14 or 15 are the 2 years where he was playing at his best.
Yeah, because that was ridiculous. See, now I forget. Was 15 the year that he had back-to-back? No, it was 14. He had back-to-back 5-touchdown games.
6 touchdown games.
That was 14, right? Not 15?
That was 14, but 15 was the year that he had those injuries, but when he came back, see that was that short stretch in 15 when he came back from injury the second time when Marcus Wheaton went off, and all of a sudden the Steelers had 3 like really good hot wide receivers with Bryant and Brown, and Ben was just slinging it all over the place, and that's when the Steelers beat the eventual Super Bowl champion Broncos, and Roethlisberger was the only quarterback that they faced that year that went over 300 passing yards.
Yeah, that was an impressive year.
So I think either or, 14 or 15, I think was his best year.
Yeah, you can make an argument for that.
But yeah, I'm with you. I don't think we'll ever see that player again, but I think 2016, 2017 Ben, if he can get there, even 2018 Ben, which is I'd say about where he is right now, if you can get him to just hit on a few more of these deep balls, I think that's going to do a lot for this offense.
What he's doing is good enough. At the moment, if he just keeps it up and keeps up how he's doing, I am more than happy with this. It is way better than last year. Way, way better.
And I think that's what we were saying. I think that's what we've all been saying for months now, is that with the way this team is constructed and the way it's playing, even if he's a level below where he was last at in 2018, he's still good, so much better than what they had, because they had the worst quarterback situation in the league last year. He's still so much better than that they're a shoo-in for at least 8 wins at the minimum, probably closer to 9 at that point. And I think now you could be looking at 10. But I think that he's had a solid start. Speaking of grades, why don't we give him a grade? Where would you say he's at right now? I think a solid B is where I'd put him right now.
Yeah, I was thinking B+. I feel like he's just been getting it done, and the lack of turnovers is pretty nice as well.
Huge. That's huge. He has just that one ugly pick.
Yeah, which, it was really bad, but, other than that, he's been serviceable and enough. And that's kind of, downplaying it. I feel like it's just overall he's been decent quarterback, so I could give him a B+, I think. Not quite an A, because he's not playing at a top level, but B+ I feel like is solid.
And how much of that has to do with the timing he's not used to having with these receivers? He's done a great job of spreading it around. I mean, you have 5 guys with more than 3+ catches in this game. Chase Claypool caught another pass, Anthony McFarland, and they did a lot of it without Deontay Johnson, who was only targeted twice before leaving with a concussion.
Yeah, didn't even make a catch before he left. Only got to rush once.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they're doing it by committee, but they're all playing their part right now. Juju had a touchdown, and Eric Ebron had his first with the Steelers. I thought Vance McDonald had a solid game in this one, especially as a blocker, which was very surprising to see. On the move, he was very impressive.
Yeah, was not expecting that. Those runs with Connor, man. What are they? Do you know what they're called?
They look like power to me. We're not used to seeing it because usually it's from under center, whereas right now from this game we saw it from the shotgun.
All those plays where Connor was able to kick out to the right or left and the tight end was in front of him were money against the Texans. They were just working. It was awesome to see, and that's where we saw Vance McDonald shine. He was actually being really good as a move blocker, like you said.
I was having flashbacks to that Cincinnati game 6 years ago where they were running that counter play where they kept pulling Pouncey and DeCastro and Foster and Jesse James, and Bell was just running for days, and they kept running the same play.
Yeah, dude.
So,
oh, man.
So obviously DeCastro, having him back was huge. I was worried that he was going to be a little rusty because he barely practiced in training camp. He looked great. And Matt Filer, they put him on the move too, and I think I saw Pouncey moving as well too. This was a really nice game from the Steelers' offensive line. I know that the Texans' rush defense is pretty bad, but you've got to be able to run on some of these teams. And the Steelers, even though they had 2 100-yard rushers the first 2 weeks, it was a little deceptive, I felt. This was one of the best rushing performances I've seen from the Steelers, I think, since the Dolphins game last year.
And this was really good, and this was not on paper not easy because of the defense you had to play with like J.J. Watt, Whitney Merciless, Zach Cunningham. Zach Cunningham is a tackling machine. So I thought overall the Steelers did well on the offensive line and the rushing game. And something I'd like to point out is I hit a bold prediction, but it wasn't bold enough. I had J.J. Watt not getting a tackle for a loss or a sack in this. He didn't even get a quarterback hit. Akumo Okorafor didn't grade out really nice on Pro Football Focus, but as a whole, not allowing J.J. Watt to even get a quarterback hit, that is good enough for me, my man. I thought Chukwuma Okorafor against J.J. Watt played really, really well. And to not allow him to even get like a tackle for a loss or a quarterback hit, that was great. I feel comfortable with Chukwuma Okorafor going forward.
Yeah, really solid performance all around. I liked what we saw from Anthony McFarland. We saw him. He had 10 snaps in this game. He ran the ball, 6 times for 42 yards. I thought he provided exactly what you needed when you drafted him. Having seen him do what he did in this game, are you more comfortable seeing him going forward, and how are you feeling about the draft pick that was spent on him now?
I mean, he reminds me of Gareth White. So, I mean, I still don't like the draft pick being used. And I will continue to say that. I guess it's a 4th-round pick, so how much can I complain? But it's just like, so it's just hard. So every year I look at a running back, and one of the late ones always bust out. This year has been James Robinson. I looked at James Robinson from Illinois State, and he is playing sick for Jacksonville at the moment. He is a bowling ball. He is playing just as good as Fournette was, if not better. And he was an undrafted free agent. So it's just like, I don't know. I am never going to be about drafting a running back. It's going to be tough. I don't know where the like line is where it's like, okay, this running back was so good that you could have wasted a pick on. Another thing that, like, just outside the Steelers game, watching the Panthers, right? The Panthers lost Christian McCaffrey. That is, you would think losing him should stall their offense with how much they paid him. They shouldn't be able to do anything, right? Wrong. Mike Davis is playing exactly the same position, doing just as good. Not better, but just as good. Definitely more than average. It's like, do you really need a running back ever? Is it like, do you ever really need a good running back? No. You'll find them everywhere. That's how I view it. So
we can have
I still hate running backs.
We can further this discussion with what we have coming up later in the podcast, but a good little prelude to that discussion that we're going to have.
Yeah, so that was good. Getting back to the point, I'm sorry, back to the Steelers game, is I am happy with Anthony McFarland's performance. I'm not going to hate on him for doing his job and doing it good. I thought that he did well, and I would like to see more snaps for him going forward, especially over Jalen Samuels, which we have seen his snap count decrease.
I don't think we're far from him being inactive.
No, it's probably it could come up as soon as this game, not against Philadelphia. We'll see.
Benny Snell, rather unimpressive. McFarland was good. James Conner, I thought, one of his best games. Probably his best game since, the Dolphins game last year.
Yeah, man. And Deontay Johnson's one jet sweep was nice, except he got concussed. But it was a good run.
Eric Ebron's first touchdown with the Steelers. Again, a productive game for the tight ends, and he caught his first. It was a nice play. Nice catch.
And that's why you get yourself an Eric Ebron. You get him for the red zone. When you struggle getting there and scoring touchdowns, That's why you have an Eric Ebron to go over someone and out physical the ball. That's what happened. He just went up over his defender and he said, "That's mine," and got a touchdown.
Yeah, so, they started the game with that field goal. They had that touchdown at the end of the half, another field goal to open the second half. They sputtered a bit, but they engineered a perfect 12-play drive to score a touchdown late in the game there. They were just running the ball. And then the nice 2-point conversion to Juju Smith-Schuster. And then again, another 11-play drive where they ended the game. Offense, where are you feeling on them right now through 3 games?
Sorry, restate that?
How are you feeling about the offense through 3 games right now?
Feel okay. If I were to give them a grade, I'd probably give them a B. Or somewhere between a B and a B+. I feel like, as a whole, they're playing good enough. I just love being able to see the Steelers target the middle of the field again. Because, like last year, the Steelers, the biggest problem with the Steelers, the quarterback play from last year, was they were not able to target the middle of the field at all. Like, there was no throws to the middle of the field after Ben Roethlisberger got hurt. It's just literally how it went for the rest of the year. So, if they can keep this up, this is definitely a playoff team.
An impressive performance in short yardage situations, too, something we don't usually see. Several short conversions. On conversion downs, 3rd and 4th down, the Steelers were a combined 10 of 20 on Sunday, so that's obviously really good.
At 50%, I'll take that.
Including 2 for 2 on 4th down, and they had 76 plays to 47, and they had 36 minutes in time of possession, which meant the Texans had just 23. So an excellent ball control offense that choked the life out of the Texans at the end of the game.
Yeah, time of possession is everything in the NFL. It really contributes to who wins the game, and the Steelers won on that front.
Two big play calls that I wanted to mention from Fichtner was that these were both on the last drive of the game, if I'm not mistaken. The 4th and 1 at the Houston 35, 3:11 to go. This was that quick little pop pass to James Washington on the left side that went for 7 yards. You remember that play?
The 4th and 1 at the Houston 35?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
I thought that was a brilliant play, and I also loved the final 3rd down play, the 3rd and 9, where Roethlisberger tossed it out to Chase Claypool. That was an explosive play, and we almost saw the worst rule in the sport rear its ugly head, but luckily Claypool fumbled out of bounds and not through the end zone. But I love both calls.
I hate that rule so much. I held my breath. I was like, did he fumble? Did he fumble out of the end zone? Did it go past the pylon? And luckily it did not. He was still probably kicking himself, and it was still scary because, he could have had a touchdown. But, we got lucky that the rule didn't rear its ugly head right there.
What would you change that rule to?
I don't know, man. Anything other than that. It's so stupid that if you're there and you fumble out of the end zone, it's like just changes possession. Like it should be get it at the spot of the fumble. That happens. Like where it first occurred, where the ball first started getting knocked out. Like that's probably where I'd put it.
Gotcha.
Rest of the field, if you fumble out of the bounds on any other part of the field, you get it where the fumble started. Why does it change when you get over there? I don't know, man. To me.
Special teams, I thought was really good. Besides the punting, I thought Dustin Colquitt didn't start well, but I thought he finished okay. We're just not seeing enough from him. We're seeing too much of our last punter, so that's a little concerning. But otherwise, I thought the special teams was really good.
Yeah, Ray McLeod looks really, really good. I'm really happy with how Ray McLeod is doing on kick returns and punt returns in this game because Deontay Johnson going out put him on the punt return team, and he was able to return 2 for 25 yards. And, both were pretty long returns. One was 13, one was 12. So I was very happy with how he played. Chris Boswell was perfect in this game, so I was happy with that as well. So, it feels kind of cool to have, a really good kick returner for once.
Where are you as far as the return game with Ray McLeod? Would you rather him be the punt returner instead of Deontay Johnson? Because I know that Johnson's had his fumbling issues, but that's also been the issue with McLeod throughout his career too.
Yeah, Johnson scares me, but I feel like it's just bound to happen. I think I would keep Johnson on the punt return team, but I mean, McLeod looked electric in this game, so we'll see. They might change it up for next week. They might take away Deontay Johnson's punt return job.
I just want to make sure we don't forget that if it were not for a Cameron Sutton penalty, that Deontay Johnson would have a punt return touchdown this year.
Exactly. So, I mean, I like Deontay Johnson something punt returns. I wouldn't like to do it. I like Ray-Ray McLeod just sticking to the kick returns because he's really good there as well.
He's going to bust one this year. I feel it.
I don't know. It looks like it, but I feel like I say this every year after I see like a few good returns. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say he doesn't.
All right, let's move on. What else is going on around?
Sorry, you cut out?
What else is going on around the Steelers right now?
Well, out of that game, Deontay Johnson was in concussion protocol, and so far has not been taken out. So, I mean, I expect him to play against the Eagles, but he's not been taken out of the game. We also lost Marcus Allen to plantar fasciitis and Derek Watt to a hamstring injury, and they are considered doubtful for the Eagles game. At this point, Allen might play. Watt is definitely not going to happen. They're thinking that's like a 2-week injury, but Marcus Allen might be ready to play. See, now, I don't know if the rule carries over. The Steelers chose to protect running backs Wendell Smallwood and Trey Edmonds, then wide receiver Deion Kane and Henry Mondell. This was before the Titans game was canceled, or postponed, rather. So, I don't know. I expect them to do the same set of 4 otherwise, but they might just like cross over because they already protected them. I'm not sure how that works since this is a new rule. Yeah, I figure that we're going to see Trey Edmonds on the active roster in this game against the Eagles to replace Derek Watt. You're going to see Derek Watt inactive, obviously. I don't think he's going to play fullback, but Trey Edmonds, what he's known for is his special teams ability, so he is going to step up and place Derek Watt on special teams. I won't be surprised to see Trey Edmonds play like in the fullback position, though. That wouldn't surprise me if that happened.
He did do that last year.
Exactly, he did that last year. So, I mean, it just makes sense to have him. I don't really know why they keep protecting Wendell Smallwood. No. They do. I totally understand the Trey Edmonds, though. And then lastly, Jerron Jones, the offensive tackle on practice squad, was arrested and charged with aggravated assault. I don't think the Steelers officially have cut him yet.
No, I think they're I think you can officially make that move. Like, it'll become official on Tuesday, I think. So today.
So he hasn't been officially cut, but you can be sure that he is.
Writing's on the wall.
Yeah, he's not going to be with the Steelers for much longer. I think that's all the Steelers news, unless you have something.
The old Aquinas grad out the door. I was just kind of hoping the Steelers would have went out and at least, maybe they did, maybe he wasn't interested, but reach out to Rosie Nix. And just because those hamstring injuries, I know Derek Watt's never missed a game before, but that's not something you want to rush back from for the first time. So I'd have considered placing him on IR and just giving Rosie Nix a call for a few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, with the new practice squad rules, I don't see why they didn't. I mean, they now have an open spot with Jerron Jones off of it, but like they could have added Rosie Nix just to the practice squad, elevated him for a few weeks, and then just got rid of him or kept him on the practice squad if they felt like. After Derek Watt came back, I guess he's probably not interested.
He's probably not interested, and I mean, maybe they just probably don't think that Watt's going to be out for that long.
Yeah, it's definitely good. Watt has a chance to play this week. I just don't think it's a good idea with his hamstring injury, and now no bye week in the middle of the year. So I think it's just better to hold Watt out one more week.
Anything you wanted to mention real quick about the Week 3 slate of games? Because we have to cover Week 4 now, too.
No. I think that we're good with that. I don't really have anything to say.
I do. Mitchell Trubisky got benched.
Hey, Nicholas, the man, the myth, the legend, Nicholas is back.
Nick Foles is back. Yeah, I think that about covers it. Oh, just how big was that Chiefs win over the Ravens.
That was huge. We've seen it now time and time again, and you could say it. Lamar Jackson cannot play from behind. Anyone that says Lamar Jackson is better than Patrick Mahomes at this point is now just dumb in my head. Because you look at Patrick Mahomes has never lost when playing from behind at 10-plus points. Lamar Jackson struggles. When you force him to throw, he struggles. This is how it's been. Like, he is decent when he's decent at throwing when he's up front. When he's not forced to do it.
On schedule.
Once he gets exactly. Once he's put in that pressure situation where, okay, we need to win this game, we need to come back and win it, he starts forcing throws, becoming inaccurate, a lot more inaccurate than normal, and then it just really sucks. Granted, I will say Mark Andrews had the biggest butterfingers in this game I've ever seen for him, so it's not all Lamar Jackson's fault. Lamar Jackson is proving that he cannot play from behind. It's just how it is. He hasn't had to do it many times in his career, but every time he really, really struggles.
There is a trend developing. It's 6 games now where he has been trailing by double digits and he's lost all 6 of them. It is not a huge sample size, and again, this Ravens team is not going to be trailing in many games this year, but that's why he has seen postseason struggles, because that's when you're going to face deficits, is when you're playing the best teams in the league.
Yeah. At the moment, there's no shot for them getting past the Chiefs once they get to the playoffs. At the moment, they need to show something. They need to show that Lamar Jackson can come back and win a game. Fourth quarter comeback. I don't know a game where Lamar Jackson is going to be down coming up. I mean, I hope it's in the Steelers game, but I hope he does not have a fourth quarter win in that one. So I can't until the playoffs, which is you really don't want to see that. I don't know a team that's going to be able to the Ravens from behind and they're going to come back and win it. You know?
It's a long season. They have time to improve in some areas before they theoretically see the Chiefs again. But I don't know. I haven't seen it just yet. So are they still a really good team? Of course they are. Are they maybe the most complete roster in the NFL? They might be. But for now, I think it's okay to have that trepidation. It's quite clear now that the top tier in the AFC is the Chiefs, and the Ravens are second, and then there's a cluster of teams right around behind them. But there is a book out on how to beat Baltimore right now.
Yeah. I agree. I'm looking at the Ravens schedule, and it's tough. Like, the Titans are the one game I'm looking at where the Titans can... Obviously, took them down in the playoffs this year, so that might be tough. The Cowboys have no defense, so I don't know if they're gonna be basically playing the Ravens from behind the entire time. Patriots, they have Cam Newton back, which they should by that time because that's November 15th. I'd play them close. I'm not certain we're gonna see it tested.
All right, let's move on to the Week 4 games. Do you want to pick and choose some games, or do you want to just look at all of them?
Let's look at all of them. Why not?
All right, so that Thursday night game, a pretty ugly game with some really bad quarterback play. But Brett Rippon, I thought, made enough plays, and he looked good at times before you jinxed him, and then he had a couple really bad plays.
I was going to say.
I was sitting right here when it happened.
I jinxed Brett Rippon. I said, he's playing fine. They're not going to have to bench him for Blake Bortles. Blake Bortles is an upgrade. He's going to throw a pick every 2 plays, and then Rippon was like, yo, you want to see picks? And then threw like 3 right in a row. So, he did enough, struggled towards the end, started getting a little wild with the ball, but there's no team that is going to lose to the New York Jets at this point. I will argue it to the death, that it's already sold. There's not a game where I'm going to not pick the team against the Jets to cover. And if there's another game where the Jets are favored, like this one, that is wild. I don't know what game that would be, but I will always be picking whatever team is against the Jets to cover because they've now lost to 2 practice squad teams. Not only did the Broncos not have Von Miller, A.J. Boye in this game, they did not have Jarrell Casey. They lost Elijah Wilkerson to IR. They had to rotate cornerbacks mid-game because a rookie wasn't playing well. What else? What else was not going in the Broncos'
Just a
favor with
heads
injuries?
up, the line for Sunday's game, because they host Arizona, is 6.5 points for Arizona.
I know Arizona is playing not very good the past 2 games, but wild. I will be taking that. I will take Arizona minus 17. Okay. So, I am not. I just can't see the Jets keeping up with any team. There's just not a team. They lost to 2 practice squad teams. There's what are you gonna do? Until they change coach, there's just no one that they can beat in the NFL.
Yeah, we've had long conversations about this. I need a few more weeks before I'm going to make that decision. It's still just too early for me because I've seen teams come out and look really bad. Maybe not this bad before, but teams that have come out and looked really bad through the first 4 games, and then they end up winning a handful of games. I am not ready yet to call it quits on them. But like you said, the big difference right now is their coach. As soon as they fire Adam Gase, I think that they can win a couple games because I think that little of him. I think he is, I don't know. I wanted to say the worst coach in the NFL, but I think Matt Patricia might be worse. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe the quarterback change will get them to win a game. That is the one thing that I'm worried about. I'm worried about them because next week they are not starting Sam Darnold, more than likely. Not because he's doing bad, but they could make that argument as well. But he sprained his throwing. I'll give Sam Darnold that. He sprained his shoulder and then still came back into play, and it was his throwing shoulder, which is wild to me. Now he's likely not to be playing this week. I'm pretty sure they're waiting to see if he could throw. Waiting to see if he could throw on Wednesday.
Yeah, because if he can't, it's going to be the elite Joe Flacco.
Yeah, that might be enough to have them win a game. If it's multiple games, I still don't think they could beat Cardinals. But
hey, man, he's just got to make sure he gets rid of the ball quickly because he's not mobile and he's got those injuries. If they can somehow protect him, I think he could make some plays. That Cardinals team has me concerned because Kyler Murray's their leading rusher and passer. He threw 3 touchdowns last week, but he did have more interceptions than touchdowns up until last week. He's been a little up and down. I still like him, of course. I just think that maybe we jumped the gun a little bit on him so far.
Yeah. Also, Kenyon Drake trash. Oh.
Also what?
That's what's Kenyon Drake is trash.
Yeah, I still don't understand why people were buying so high on him as a fantasy option this year.
Straight boo-boo butt cheeks.
I had him last year in one league, and he was good, but I just did not understand that at all.
Mance left the game because he got the breath knocked out of him and never came back. That blew my mind. I was like, my guy, you didn't come back in the game? I know I've gotten the breath knocked out of me. I know it sucks, but it's 5 minutes. Like, all right, I'm good, and you're done. But my man said, I'm not coming back in. I'm done.
Enough is enough. I'm ready for my paycheck.
Enough.
A man who earned his paycheck this week was Joe Burrow, getting the Bengals their first win under him, and the Jaguars fall to 1-3. I thought that Burrow has looked really good through the first few weeks, considering the team around him is garbage.
Yeah, with no offensive line, he's impressed me. I think if he gets an offensive line, he's going to be dangerous. He's already playing at a really high level, I think. PFF graded him as, I think the 5th highest quarterback this week, so they obviously think that he played really well. I like him. I thought that the Jaguars would keep it closer, but they did not.
Still a 1-score game, so it wasn't too terrible, but the Bengals were definitely the better team in this one. There's an interesting conversation that they've been having at PFF. It's kind of a philosophy question of what is better to have, and the question is, would you rather have 5 average to above average offensive linemen because the offensive line works like a chain, and if you have one chain that doesn't work, then the rest of it is basically useless. So the idea was if you have 5 average to above average offensive linemen, that's better as an argument as opposed to 4 really good offensive linemen and 1 offensive lineman that's basically Eric Flowers dipped in Bobby Hart, where he's just
Love that.
the worst player in the league at that position, and you have 4 fantastic, strong pieces of chain, but you have this one broken, rusty chain that is going to infect people with tetanus. And the idea is it's better to have, even though your chain of average offensive linemen might not be as good in terms of a talent standpoint, when you have that many working together, because the idea is basically that one really bad link can wreck an offensive line.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I was just kind of curious if you agreed with that or not, because I thought about it for a second, and I was like, no, I don't agree, and then I thought about it for a bit, and I was like, I get it, yeah.
I think I disagree because you could always find help for that one bad guy. You could always have a tight end, you could have a running back chip.
Yes, but for this specific example, my Eric Flowers dipped in Bobby Hart, I don't think you could give them enough help. That's my point.
Okay.
They're that bad that it's literally the worst offensive lineman in the league at that position. I don't know that there is anything.
The Bengals gave me a helmet and said, "Go play left tackle."
That's essentially my point. I know it's an extreme and it's obviously hypothetical, but that's just kind of what I'm getting, because my whole point of it is that Jonah Williams has actually been playing pretty well. It's kind of the inverse, where the Bengals have 4 links on the offensive line that are awful and broken, but Jonah Williams is actually doing okay. But the problem is it doesn't even matter because Joe Burrow's getting killed out there. And what you have to look at now with Burrow is you have to hope that he doesn't become Andrew Luck or David Carr, because he's playing well like those two guys have flashed in their careers, but they both didn't last long because they were getting shellacked every play.
Yeah, man. Joe Burrow's survivability is definitely going to be in question.
All right. One guy whose survivability can never be questioned is Ryan Fitzpatrick, but he was unable to lead the Miami Dolphins to a win over the Seattle Seahawks, who continue to play well. Russell Wilson looking like the MVP. A bit of a lower scoring game throughout most of the day, but they picked up right in the final period. And Russell Wilson, another 360-yard game. The Hawks are rolling, even though their defensive front might be the worst in the league.
Yeah, I mean, as long as if the Seahawks can keep up the offense they have, it doesn't matter how bad their defense is, because their defense isn't really good right now. But, I mean, Russell Wilson's playing at such a high level that it doesn't matter.
The Seahawks this year are what the Packers were last year if the Packers last year had Aaron Rodgers in his prime. Which let me say it this way. If the Packers had Aaron Rodgers last year, that's what they are. Because that's what the team feels like.
I just feel like that.
They aren't impressive wins, but again, wins are wins. And he's just playing the best. The whole let Russ cook thing, I'm all about it.
I'm not sure that the Seahawks are going to have a blowout win this year because of their defense. I think every game is going to be a close game because their defense is going to allow every team to stay in it. That doesn't mean they're not a good team. It's just their defense is a little bit weak.
Makes you wonder how they let. And I've been a big critic of him over the years, but how could you let Jadeveon Clowney walk when there's just nothing on this defensive front? I mean, they've got to trade for somebody. There's nothing there.
Yeah, maybe they can get J.J. Watt.
Yeah, I mean they're doing everything they can to get Bobby Wagner and Jamal Adams in one-on-one pass rushing situations. That's no way to exist. You gotta have better guys.
Unfortunately, Jamal Adams got hurt, so they couldn't even do that this game.
Mm-hmm. I missed a game. Browns and Cowboys, crazy high-scoring game. Dak Prescott 500 yards and it wasn't enough. The Browns rolling with the running game to the victory. The Browns almost blew this game. They were up 41-14, I think, or 38-14, and they almost blew the lead. And then the Cowboys were about to bring it within one score, and then on the PAT, it got blocked. And then it got... Or wait, was that the Browns? No. Wait, what happened? I forgot exactly how that worked.
Dude, I couldn't even tell you. I was looking down at my phone and the Browns had 2 points.
Oh, you know what happened? It was that OBJ 50-yard touchdown run. The Cowboys had just made it a one-score game. Then the Browns went and had this huge, crazy touchdown run by OBJ. And then on the PAT, it was blocked. And the Browns recovered it in the end zone for the 2-point conversion. That's what was crazy about it.
Yeah. No, that whole game was wild. And they fed Odell Beckham, man. That was a wild game. I mean, the Cowboys are in bad shape at the moment. I mean, actually, every NFC East team is not in bad shape because the NFC East is just that easy.
It's winnable right now.
It's just, for playoff-wise, that entire division just doesn't look good. But, I mean, for getting to the playoffs, that's not a big deal at the moment because it's like every NFC East team says, no, you take it. No, sir, please, you take it. No, I don't want it. You take it. Redskins started out as a leader, and then now we have the Eagles there. And I think the Cowboys had it last week. The Eagles are 1-2-1, so, you know.
Yeah, this is very similar to last year's division, NFC East, too.
And they're not improving. As a whole, they all suck together. Respect it.
It's going to take... One of these teams will figure it out around Thanksgiving. That's what happened last year, was the Eagles. I think we'll see that again.
Yeah. But I think that's probably what's going to happen.
This game was crazy, though, because prior to the Browns scoring that touchdown there were two separate quarters where one team was outscoring the other 24-0 in the quarter. The Browns outscored Dallas 24-0 in the second. The Cowboys had done the same thing in the fourth prior to that last touchdown. That was kind of a nutty game. I'm not a fan of the Browns uniforms because they're basically the color rush without the stripes, and that looks dumb.
Yeah, I agree with that. I really wish they blew that game. That would have been hilarious.
Yeah, it really would have been. Former Orlando Apollo Dearness Johnson with 95 yards on the ground. How about that?
Yeah, that's wild. Unfortunately, Nick Chubb out for, I think, the next 6 weeks at least, they said.
At least.
It's tough. Yeah, this, again, another bad week for injuries, I felt like, because you lost Austin Eckler in the Chargers game, you lost Nick Chubb in this game. Just some big running back names that are now gone.
The Lions blew another lead to the Saints. This time, I believe, a 14-0 lead. They blew it in the second quarter and lost 35-29. I don't know why they don't fire Matt Patricia. I was on the train of just give him a little more time last year, but I saw something where like he'd have to go 26-2 over his next 28 games to have the same win percentage as Jim Caldwell, the coach he replaced after he spent X amount of years in Detroit. I mean, he was brought in to take the team to the next level, and they backpedaled far.
Yeah, that's wild to me. And he keeps saying, like, he keeps blaming on the pieces, man. Like, it's really, like, cringy to watch. It's just, he's not very good as a head coach.
No. It's clear that he's lost faith of the players, and I think it's only a matter of time now.
He's on the clock.
A good game from Justin Herbert, but he was outdone by Tom Brady. The Buccaneers come back in comeback fashion. I was asleep for most of this one, sadly.
I watched that entire game. It was on national TV. That was interesting to me. Justin Herbert actually looks like a decent quarterback, and I didn't look at him, so I couldn't say. But I felt like the entire, it doesn't matter what everyone says because there's been plenty of people that are wrong. But it felt like everyone was like, "No, Herbert's gonna be trash. Like he went too high, stuff." But he looks really solid, and unfortunately for Tyrod Taylor, that probably means his job is gone when he is healthy.
Yeah, for sure. He's looking like the real deal right now. The Ravens came back and won 31-17, which gives them exactly that 14-point margin there. Started out kind of slow, but I figured they'd win by a handy amount in this one, and they did.
RG3 almost screwed this spread. He threw a pick right at the end when they were up 21, and then it led to a touchdown. It really almost screwed the spread. If you were better, you lost. So I would literally be hating RG3 at the moment.
Wasn't the line
That's on how we do it.
Wasn't the line 14?
But not in when you're betting, house wins.
Oh, so should we technically give ourselves a loss for that?
I just assumed we were doing it different because we're not the house. We're not trying to steal people's money.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's fine. I just figured 14 points is 14 points.
When it's a tie like that, when it's tie, they give it to the house.
Oh, boo.
Yeah, trash.
I get it, though. Panthers, Cardinals. Kind of a surprising win for the Panthers. I was wrestling taking them just because I think they're a little better than people were giving them credit for. I'm not concerned about the Cardinals yet, but I think I jumped the gun a little bit on them. I still think they're an improving team, but I don't know that they're going to be the powerhouse I thought they were 2 weeks into the year.
I agree. I feel like after 2 straight losses now to the Lions and now the Panthers, it's not great. I think their defense was overperforming against bad teams, and that's not really the reason they lost, because their offense was a little bit stagnant in this game as well. Kyler Murray was... I have to bring up his stat line. His stat line is ridiculously, stupid for how much passing he did. Let's see if I can get it in time. But the point is, his yards per attempt is so low. It was, ridiculous. He threw for 133 yards on how many actual... Okay, it doesn't show me. That's really annoying.
He had 133 yards on 31 attempts. That is not good.
No, I mean, he had 3 touchdowns, but it was laughable. How little... he was literally dinking and dunking. They really rely on him to run for him to do good. I mean, he had a really big run in this game. He did 49 yards, I believe. It was 49 or 48. That was big, but, there's, really no one else. He doesn't have a rushing game behind him. Kenyon Drake, like I already said, is trash. Chase Edmonds is kind of dope, but, he doesn't get playing time because he's behind Kenyon Drake. So, no.
They had a 25-yard pass to Dan Arnold, and if you take that away, Kyler's barely over 100 yards.
Literally. He was literally throwing it 1 yard or behind the line. It was like Ryan Switzer. It's basically like the Cardinals were playing with Ryan Switzer at every position. All right, we're going to throw this 1 yard down the field, or negative 1 yards, and we're going to see what happens. And it just wasn't working. So, just for a team that's supposed to be running the air raid, that's not a very good stat line at all.
Vikings at Texans, the only battle of 2 winless teams in the league. I originally went with Houston, but I changed my mind to Minnesota just because of how bad the Texans' run defense is and how the Vikings, their bread and butter is running the ball. Dalvin Cook had 130 yards in this game. A valiant effort by the Texans to try and come back, but it was all for naught. The Vikings hang on for the 31-23 win, and Bill O'Brien canned by the Houston Texans just yesterday as I was leaving work roughly. So with Bill O'Brien gone, the Texans appeared to be punting on the season, and the Vikings get that elusive first win.
Yep, Justin Jefferson's breaking out for Minnesota. 175 yards 2 weeks ago, and then in this past week, 103 yards. And this is breaking out.
I still like him. I still like Van Jefferson more, but I do like Justin Jefferson. He had a couple really nice grabs.
He's currently PFF's top wide receiver, I think, actually. So far in the season. He's definitely close. And I kept seeing the tweets about him. I can't remember. I feel like he's having the best rookie season of a wide receiver in PFF's time existing. Pretty sure that's what I saw.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, he's doing really well, according to PFF.
Let's see. In the meantime, while I'm looking that up, into the 4 o'clock games now, the Rams held on for a 17-9 win over the Giants. Lower scoring than I thought it was going to be. The Rams offense never really got going, but they're still a better team.
Yeah. I feel like I feel like they're just operating on dink and dunk, and I feel like that's why it's keeping games close. Like that, like that's all. They're not really driving the ball downfield. It's not like working well.
Yeah, Justin Jefferson has the highest receiving grade in the NFL right now among receivers, and
I saw that.
and the highest offensive grade too.
Yeah, wild. Man's is out here.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling has one of the worst drop grades among receivers. That's not good.
No bueno. Not when you're without Devontae Adams and Alan Lazard.
Didn't bother him too much tonight, I guess, but we'll get to that. The Bears are no longer among the unbeaten teams. Nick Foles' first start with the Bears didn't go too well. The Colts just outmuscled them. Kind of unimpressive, but a win is a win. The Colts quietly 3-1. I think a lot of people, including myself, wrote them off after that Jacksonville loss in Week 1, but they've been solid ever since.
They're doing decently. I wish they would have beat up on Chicago a little bit more, but I mean, it is what it is. Just saying, Bears under Mitchell Trubisky, 3-0. Nick Foles, 0-1. Starting Mitchell Trubisky. That's just me, by the way. I'm joking. But regardless, for Colts, it's just, I don't know. I'm still not sold on them. I feel like they don't have an identity. I don't know what they're doing. They're 3-1, but like, is it a believable 3-1? Not sure.
They feel like they're in a similar space to the Steelers where we're not sure what their identity is just yet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's basically how I feel.
We know what the Bills are. That's a team that has a solid defense, a superstar quarterback right now, and can do whatever it wants on offense. Devin Singletary, I can't believe he only had 55 yards on the ground. He was awesome. Bit of a back and forth. The Bills played bad at times in this game, but when they got things going, they were unstoppable. Josh Allen, again, another great game, 30-23.
Yeah, I don't know if the Bills are ever going to get respect. I thought this line was a little bit disrespectful, and I know they played close for most of the game, and the Raiders just really exploded towards the end. But I don't know. I don't think the Bills are ever going to get respect.
They have to beat New England.
I like the Bills in this game.
They have to beat New England.
They do have to beat New England.
A game that I would not have bet on either way was the Eagles-49ers. Just so many injuries between these two teams. Nick Mullins got benched, I believe, in this game, didn't he?
He did. We saw C.J. Beathard.
Yeah, so we saw some of that. But ultimately, it was the Philadelphia Eagles that came out on top 25-20. Relatively unimpressive. The only guy that was impressive was George Kittle.
Dog put up 180 yards in his return. I can't believe he lost putting up 180 yards. It wasn't even close. Regardless, yeah. Both teams are operating at practice squad levels at the moment, so it was really a toss-up who would win.
The Steelers get the Eagles next week, who have only one of their starting five offensive linemen right now.
That's tough. Starting two of my prospects, though, former prospects, and Jordan Mailata and Jack Driscoll.
The boys. So we just had two games that concluded a handful of hours ago, being the Patriots and Chiefs, starting with that one. That Brian Hoyer got the start for New England, replaced by Jarrett Stidham. This was a really low-scoring game through the first three quarters. It was just 13-3. New England's defense, valiant effort, held Patrick Mahomes to just 236 yards, but you have to think that this game would have gone differently with Cam Newton at the helm. But even that being the case, the Chiefs still put up 26 points.
I mean, maybe Cam Newton doesn't throw that pick six. You don't really know. But it would have been much closer without that pick six, and the New England offense might play better. Would have been interesting. Too bad Cam Newton couldn't play.
And then the last game of the week, the Falcons got beaten pretty badly by the Packers, who are 4-0 right now. Aaron Rodgers, 4 more touchdowns, and the Falcons are bad and should feel bad, and I know you hate them.
I hate the Falcons. I bet the over for this game, and I did not hit it because it was 56.5. So, I mean, really the joke's on me. I shouldn't have done that. It still sucks. I really thought the Falcons could put up more points, and they did not. And they had a 20-play drive that resulted in 3 points. Works.
I'm reading something that says John Gruden apparently was not being very good about his mask again, so now the NFL might step in and take away draft picks or suspend him.
They're thinking about doing that for the Titans, too. They're still monitoring, like, how the Titans, not for the mask thing, but they're trying to see if, like, the Titans broke protocol at all.
Yeah.
And Juju revealed on Twitter today that, like, the NFL could do it. The NFL is making a big deal. If you miss a COVID test, $50,000 fine. If you miss it. So I wouldn't be surprised, like, because that's a very high fine, which it makes sense. It's like, but it feels like they could strike the hammer as hard as they want.
So that concludes our Week 4 recap here. We're running a little long here. We're approaching an hour and a half. Would you like to hold off on our discussion for next time if possible? I mean, we could always... It's something that won't change necessarily. I'd like to put it in the back pocket because I think it'd be a fun discussion.
Sure, we can talk about it another day.
Alrighty. Well, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, unless you're good to go, Austin, we'll wrap this up.
All right, I'm good.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Stronger Than Steel podcast with Austin and John. If you have any questions about the show, please feel free to visit our website, strongerthansteelnfl.blogspot.com. Email us at strongerthansteelpodcast@gmail.com. And as always, check out our various social media platforms and our episodes, which are posted on YouTube and SoundCloud. Later this week, we'll be previewing Steelers and Eagles. But until then, thank you for listening to the podcast, and have a nice day.
Have a good day.
You have been listening to Stronger Than Steel podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to check out our website listed in the description below.